Yes. Yes, when you will write it answer, so certainly directly, indirectly it will be incorporated. Right. Yes, you can mention in beginning. You can mention after writing introduction. You can mention it. The main issues in the case studies are as follows. Right. It is not essential part. No, but it has relevance. The way preamble is, you know that preamble, etc. Right. So your these things are like preamble. Right. They give the essence of your answer when you write it. If you do not write it, it will not have any harm provided your answer has appropriate content. Right. The most important thing which matter in any answer is that whether you have written appropriate answer, which we do not know also what is appropriate answer. Since you do not know that what is appropriate answer, so you apply many other strategy to make it appropriate. Right. This is how. So because you may not be able to write perfect answer. In that 3 hours, how can you write perfect answer or best answer? So this is how. One, you know that your answer was best once the exam result come. Right. So these are some strategy that we are applying so that your answers can be considered better. Right. This is how it is. So let me be very clear again. First we should write introduction. Thereafter it is up to you whether you will write this analysis that we have written. You can write or you can escape. Thereafter you can write these main issues, conflicting values. So at least it should write it because it gives certain fundamental aspect. The core aspect of the answer you have written in beginning. So it will be considered a right beginning. So you can write this. When you write it, so don't write more than 2 to 3 points. Or keep it yourself to write only 2 points. Right. Because since you have to write answer, this is how it should be. Thereafter, now you should come to A, B, whatever the options that we have. Introduction should be, let's say again, whatever the case study you have, any important core feature of the introduction, case study should be taken as introduction. Right. There, so simply let's say, now there can be 2 types of also introduction. One, we can write a general introduction related to the case study. Another, we can write a very specific introduction related to the case study. General introduction is that generally now it has become a very difficult choice, or it is increasingly becoming a difficult choice for many citizens that whether their rights are compromised or they should compromise their basic rights for the sake of security of the country. Right. Or what is the threshold point that your rights will be compromised and now security will come. Right. So the main concern remains today due to security concerns. Today when there are security concerns are very high. So what should be the threshold point that now a person basic rights will be compromised and call for the nation duty or security will come and will get primacy. This is how that can be introduction. So this becomes a general introduction, but it is related to your case study. Right. Certainly, your introduction should not be conclusion, so you should not write what doctor should do. Right. That kind of introduction should not be written. Rather, let's say that you should write, if a specific introduction you want to write, so you should write that, right, as a concerned citizen, in this case, or when there is a duty towards nation, so certainly there should be a balance between rights of an individual like doctor's right and security. Right. So we should try to strike a balance between both. Right. So this way you should have written. Thereafter, let's come to, suppose you are Mr. B. So what you have written? I think one category of people who have written ki you will give security to Mr. A. No. You have not written. Kya baat hai? Right. Suppose you are Mr. B, then you are not giving security to him. How can you be so discompassionate? Yes. You are giving security. Kya baat hai? You belong to Raw. So those who are then will come. So on which basis you say that security should be given? No, no, don't read it. No, no, let him finish. No, yes, given his background and ठीक है. Any other view in that support? So he should be given shelter. Right. Any other who will talk in this? Because let me say that the class is not only that I should speak. You should know it at also in beginning, because you improve also by what other people say. Basically, it is that you can logic in different ways when different people have different arguments. When you hear the certain minimum level of discussion we also have. This is how you can say that. So that the other side is also known, different views are known. In fact, you should try to read the others' answers also, so that you can learn what other people write. Read. No, only in favor those who are saying he should be given shelter. Yes, given point. Any other support? This is how it should be. Yes. Who are you to decide he is not involved? Yes, it is not mentioned. Again, means largely, let's say those people who are supporting, they support on the background of the doctor. Right. Means background behavior of the doctor. That is called character of the doctor. Right. So do you take it? There is no, let's say that culpability, it appears according to the case study. So that is also not a point. Third is the doctor-patient relationship. This is how people are logicking. And this is also a good logic. Let's say character also decides. This is how the virtue ethics says. Right. So virtue ethics also takes into consideration character. Agent action theory. So we have agent action theory. Agent action theory, that agent will try to emphasize on character of the individual. Right. And action will scrutinize the action of the individual once you behave. So yes, this is how we can say. But certainly they are not, let's say that appropriate one. Those who are refusing, right. So what they are saying, any 1-2 person can speak. When you are refusing, he should not be given shelter. So what logic you give? Obstruction of justice. It will set a right precedent. So obstruction of justice, it will set a wrong precedent. Yes, not only, let's say, committing crime, but abating crime is also one such, let's say, culpability considered. Any other? Yes, it is based, good point by the way. So it is based on this assumption that police will always behave in certain aspect. Means we have no faith in the system also. A good point, relevant point, that at least for examination. So you do not have, your behavior will show that you do not have trust or faith in the system. Yes, let's say that. Yes, appropriate view. Suppose you are Mr. B, then whether he should be given shelter or not, shelter should not be given. Right? So he should not be given shelter. That is the appropriate stand. And what the justifications? You can write those 4 points given by people. Right. Let's come what you should write. First thing is that when Mr. A is a good doctor, he is a compassionate doctor, right, and he has not committed any offense, why he should fear? This is a point. When you have not committed any offense, right, so why you should fear? When you fear, it gives a wrong message that you have certain level of let's say culpability or support. Right. It does not show a courageous behavior. Right. So it also does not show a courageous behavior you can withstand law. Right. And certainly it does not set a right precedent. So when suppose you have not committed any offense, so you should be ready to cooperate to the security agencies. Great. You should be ready and you should have trust in the system. Great. Another important aspect is that it is not a solution. Right. Giving shelter will not give any solution, because today or tomorrow he is going to be handed over to the law. How many days you will give shelter? So giving shelter makes the problem more complex, worse, rather than it address the problem, because now the police will inquire you also. Right. So police job will be further extended. Right. It will not investigate only doctor, etc. It will also talk about you and how you are providing, and there will be, let's say, somehow you can also be implicated on the basis of abating. Right. Abating to the crime, supporting to the crime, and not supporting to security personnel, security agencies. As a concerned citizen, it is also a duty that we should cooperate with the security agencies. Right. Another important term should come is that we have a system of governance. You should have written that. India has a system of governance. It has a democratic governance system in which if a person has not committed offense, so he will get justice. Right. This is how. If police arrest a person and police does not have legal basis of arrest, so tomorrow the person will be acquitted. The only issue is that in short run the person will be troubled, but thereafter the person stands become more strong. Right. Once the person is acquitted, thereafter police will be, let's say police is going to arrest the person, so police will have to think many times before going for arrest. Right. So it sets also a right precedent that it, let's say, build pressures on the police security agencies when they arrest any person, so they should have certain concrete basis. Otherwise the persons will be acquitted. Right. So therefore he should not give shelter, he should say rather that you should cooperate, you should cooperate to the security agencies, right, and you should not have fear. The only thing is that in short run you will be troubled, your image may suffer. Right. But another important aspect is that any good person should not be concerned about image. Right. Image is a very transitory thing. Right. So image you should not, only for the sake of image we should not work. Right. Image can be rebuilt. So as a good doctor if you are, so thereafter you can also build a good image. Right. You should not run away to save your image when situation comes. Right. So these are the points that should be written in this question. Right. Largely we have told that it's a fear factor, it's not a solution. Long term, ultimately you have to surrender and you should have trust in the system of governance. You should also try to link with the system of governance, democratic governance, etc. in answer when you are writing. Right. So this is how it should be. Yes. Let's, that is not part of the question. Question is not asking that. Right. No, that is a very complex issue. I should have added a third question. But in the end we'll discuss, this is not part of the question. But the question has some complexity. Yes? No, why you should hand over? You should tell, right. You should tell that you go and surrender yourself. Right. Yes. No, let's think from security agency perspective. Yes, 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 yes. Agreed. We are not discussing on that. Yes, accepted. But let's think, if all citizens start thinking like this, there will be victimization, then how security agencies will work? That no, it is not like that. Yes, that can be, and let's say that again, there can be a different view, but it is the most appropriate view that shelter should not be given. Why it should not be given? Because think from, let's say, not only citizen perspective, overall society. Thomas Hobbes, citizens will not enjoy absolute right. Right. For the sake of peace and order in society, absolute right will not be enjoyed by any citizen. Right. And some citizens or citizens will have to sacrifice their rights. That's why there is a concept of a state. Right. This we have. So when there is a concept of a state and a state wants to ensure certain peace and order, so some citizens at certain point of time will have to sacrifice their rights. Right. And therefore this we should not be concerned. Yes, for that redressal we have a system of governance. Let's say we have a judiciary, and if police has arrested a person who has no culpability, so do we have a judicial system we can ensure that this is arbitrary action does not happen, and this way you should write it. Right. So this is how it is. Yes, because it is not related. In any crime committed, so there will not be crackdown, there will be arrest. Right. Naxalism is a serious issue, and it is, let's say, omnipresent in certain area, or it is, let's say, widespread, so you will have to have some crackdown. Right. So other situation happens, so maybe the answer may not be in that fashion. Right. This is how. But Naxalism is not an important aspect in this question. We should not. We will deal your question that you are talking what a doctor should do, although it is not part of the question. But certainly next time I will add a third question in this, whether doctor should inform. Right. Not. No, yes or no should not be written initially. You should simply write your answer, don't write yes and no. Right. When there is a conflict between compassion, duty towards nation, then what should be done? I think most of the people may have written duty towards nation. No, not written. Compassion. If you are writing either side, compassion or duty towards nation, so it's a shallow answer in our language that we say that. Right. Means there is no, let's say you have not gone to some other level of rational thinking. Right. So in any situation you cannot, unless we know the situation, we cannot take a stand. Right. We cannot take a stand unless we know the situation. This you should know. So the question is this, right, that you should have approach of writing that no doubt compassion is also important and duty towards nation is also important. Or simple you should write that both are two important values for human. Right. Duty towards nation and compassion. Right. In fact, duty towards nation also involves certain level of compassion. Right. So both values cannot be separated. There is, let's say, they have certain level of overlapping relationships. Right. So compassion and duty towards nation, when people have duty towards nation, they are also compassionate. Then you should have also written that duty towards nation does not mean going on border and fighting. Duty towards nation means not going and joining only defense forces. Duty towards nation means ki a person, a concerned citizen should do his role, right? So any citizen, let's say that ki he is a sweeper, a doctor, a teacher, a civil servant, and when they let's say that ki very dutiful towards their job, right? So it is also duty towards nation. So duty towards nation means not, let's say, only let's say joining defense forces or let's say fighting for defense of the country. Right. So this should have also been written. However, in general, when we talk duty towards nation, so it is something larger call that we talk. It is the something bigger role that we talk. It is something challenging role, especially when we have to defend country. Right. So when we have to work in the defense of the country. So that way. However, there can be different situations, and in different situations, let's say compassion, so at times compassion will become a primary value, at times duty towards nation will become a primary value. Right. This is how. For instance, you should have given some different examples. Right. Like say any person working in intelligence agency, he has a duty towards nation, and he should not reveal any such information in any situation, even if let's say that there is a threat to his life. Right. So even if there is a threat to life, so he should not. Right. Or if let's say soldiers in a war, so in war when soldiers let's say are fighting, so that time soldiers should not be compassionate towards the other army, other side of the army. Right. They should not be compassionate. It is a very clear case that you should not be compassionate. Otherwise you will end up losing war. But once war ends and you have prisoners of war, you should show compassion. Right. So when you have now, when you fought war, you had a duty towards nation. You did not sacrifice. You did not bring compassion. Once war ends and you have prisoners of war, so you should necessarily have compassion. Right. This is how it is. So both values are important in different situations. Right. So that way you should have written this question. Right. So you should have not gone to one stand, rather we are taking clear stand in some different situations. So you should learn this also, that in this paper there will not be one clear stand. There can be a set of let's say 2, 3 or more than that situations where we can take certain stands. Right. And then in the end you should write or conclude it, right, that both values should be defended, propagated. Right. And citizens should be encouraged, right, that they adhere to such values. Doctors, so doctors for the sake of security, their duty should not be sacrificed, compromised. Therefore, security agencies should have some standard operating procedures to ensure that there is a threshold they can decide. The threshold is that this is the situation in which the doctor should, right, for the sake of duty towards nation, compromise his compassion or duty towards patient. Right. So security agency should have certain this established standard operating procedure. For example, today in newspaper somehow we have read, in Indian Express one person has written, there should be standard operating procedure for security agencies. There should be a national security doctrine. This is how he is talking. And there should be certain standard operating procedures that in particular situation what you should do. Means there should be some red lines, and in those red lines you don't have to give a notice what you should do. Right. Since India does not have this, sir, just simply we are trying to link it, nothing else. Right. So this way you should have ended, and this is how the answer of the question. Right. Yes, now there are some your peripheral questions, other questions that you are talking. See what should be, although there will be a case later stage also. In 6th day of case study, we'll deal one case study that will also come. Yes. Right, because somehow it is related here, so you can bring the instances of the case study, like say doctor, but question appears to be a bit general. Right. So when it is general, so generally it can be answered. But even in that doctor case, let's say that when there is a compassion duty towards nation, so this is how you should have brought that. We should try to strike a balance. Duty towards nation means you should tell the things we have told, right? Even when he is performing his duty as a doctor, there is also duty towards nation. But only in case of security, when there is this that he has to decide whether he should inform. The challenge will be when he should inform, when he provides any treatment to the next slides. Right. So that issue you can bring, which we can separately discuss. The people are talking that doctor should inform to next security agencies when doctor is giving any kind of treatment to next slides. A general question we are asking, do you think that doctors, when they are giving treatment to certain persons, and doctor has two types of information. One, he may know that the person has certain link with Naxalites or he is Naxalite. A doctor may not know that with the person he is treating who the person is. But security agencies knows that the people who are being treated are the patients who are being treated, so they are linked with Naxalites. Doctor does not know. In general, whether doctors should inform security agencies, right, in such cases. Do you think doctor has such duty? Yes. Yes, let me say that media, when media has interview with many such, let's say that dreaded criminals, including D company, do you think that media has this duty to inform to the security agencies? No. Try to understand. If you think in a shallow way, so we can say that every citizen has duty towards nation and he should inform. But if you think in some broader way, so you will find the actual issue and the issue will become more complex. It is not the duty of the doctor to ensure strengthen mechanisms to fight against internal security challenges. It is the duty of security agencies to take steps to fight against all those challenges. So doctor has no this concern at first place. The role of doctor is simple, to give treatment to the patients irrespective of any person. Second, even a culprit, even a Naxalites, once he is punished and he has health problems, so he is given treatment. Right. It means that any person, even if a person who is inmate, punished, etc., let's say that the person enjoys still some rights. Right. So even a doctor is treating to a person who is a Naxalite, and therefore let's say that it is not something wrong duty that he is doing. He is simply giving treatment. Third, a doctor is not supposed to know the patient's background, etc., who they are. Right. And therefore when he is not supposed to know and he does not know, how can he inform the police? Right. And let's say that this will affect his profession. Right. When you will come to know this person is linked with Naxalites? It is very difficult. The consequence of the action you see, the outcome of the action you see, then he will not become a doctor, rather he should become something else. Right. Patients will also not go there. Fearful, fear factor will come. Suppose you don't have any link with Naxalite. You also go and you know that any the person who was treated or the person who is sitting before you, he is having linked with Naxalites, so you will also be coming in that trap. Means where you will demarcate all such lines. Right. So this is how it has lots of, let's say, complexity and its negative consequence. That's how doctor is not supposed to do. Yes. In one such situation, doctor should inform. That is the situation when any Naxalite has been declared by the security agencies, right, You have the face, etc. you have declared, and then you have informed to the concerned people that if this kind of person comes to you, so you should inform us. Right. In this case, you have established the identity of the person, right, and that person is needed by the security agency, and therefore security agency can send that person, let's say, photograph, etc., to those institutions, and they can seek cooperation. In that case, a doctor should inform. Right. This is the only case. Security agencies should also avoid it. Right. So, because security agency, you cannot fight Naxalism just by cooperation by doctors. That is a failure of your, let's say, internal security mechanisms. Right. They can only help in some situation. Right. They cannot help you fight against Naxalites. And therefore, this is how, let's say, we should not. And in the last, doctor takes oath to save life. This is how it is. So, these are some factors should be taken into consideration. Another important thing is that, I will come to this, I will take your question. Duty towards nation should not be taken emotionally. In case of security, a citizen is not supposed to, right, ensure or become a very helping hand for fighting against, right. Although a citizen should be aware about, what we are saying that security agencies should enhance their institutional capacity to strengthen and fight against such issues. Right. This is how. We should not create a sort of sense of fear and terror in the mind of people. Right. This is also duty of security agencies. Right. So this is how these things should be taken into consideration. No, community policing is different thing. Right. Community policing is not to create fear in the mind of the people. Community policing is to create trust in the mind of the people. Right. Yes. So it is not that you are, but here there is something linked with profession of a person. Right. And some specific issue. In that case, let's say he is not supposed to. Right. Because it will have a negative consequence on the profession. Try to understand this. Right. Personal repercussion, no. All doctors and you do not know sins. And it becomes a very subjective ground. There can be, let's say, misuse of this right by the security agencies. Right. So some institutions' values should be ensured unless you have certain level of threshold or a very specific situation where a doctor should cooperate. We should not in general. Right. This is how we should say that. Right. It can cooperate in a specific situation, but in general it should not. Like a special situation is that this is a warlike situation. Country is under emergency. Right. So in that situation it is a disaster time. So there is a disaster. In that media can cooperate. Right. But certainly let's say media has gone to take interview of any Naxalite. Right. Which you need that Naxalite. So media is not supposed to disclose all these details. Right. Then it is your intelligence failure. Then what you will do is that you will not strengthen your intelligence. If a media is able to reach to that person, where is your intelligence? Why you are not reaching to that person? Right. So from tomorrow what you will do? Instead of strengthening your intelligence agency, you will make media doctors as intelligence in let's say resource, and you will try to use that. Yes. Why not we can take a stand? If any particular situation is not given, so you can yourself give some situation. In one situation we have told ki compassion should be, another situation we have told duty towards nation should be. That's a specific situation you are mentioning. But if they have not mentioned, so you can mention. Right. This can be. This way we can answer. Right. Let's take next question. Right, should we finish it? This argument will again happen when we'll deal one case related to FBI and the Apple issue. Right. You should understand what we are trying to say, that security agencies should enhance their own capability. Right. This you should understand. A citizen should cooperate and be aware for, let's say, security, etc. But there should be some threshold. Right. This we are talking. Right. Yes, it can be. Both you can take, but largely Mr. B stand is not very important because he is just only going to give help, nothing else. So we should not take it. The second question or next question is, what is the next question? Right. Engineers and doctor. What are the variables? Right. What is the main issue? Let's discuss the case so that we can finish. Next time we will take all these details. Introduction can be generally that there is a generally or simple you can say ki there is a general perception that doctors and engineers when they join civil service, so that result into somehow right, right, dilution of subsidies provided by the government, right, and they do not contribute to their field, right. So means they do not contribute to their field, that is called technical field, rather they contribute to civil services. So there is a perception that they should contribute to their field rather than to some other field, right, and hence they should not join. This is how the perception, right. By the way, what is the core issue, the fundamental issue in this case study? Freedom of choice. Then freedom of choice and optimum utilization of taxpayers' money. Yes, any other? Public, personal, right, concerns, rights of individuals versus public interests, individual rights versus collective rights. That you can write. Generalist versus specialist, right? Can be. This is how it is. Yes. Not audible. What you are saying? Okay, we are talking on civil service. Let's come to question A. Right. So you may have written ki you know it is not wastage of taxpayers' money. This is how you have written. So largely people may have written. Anyone who writes ki no, it is wastage of taxpayers' money. Yes, opportunity cost. Any person who say that ki, yes, it is wastage of taxpayers' money, certainly there will not be that view. Any person who goes on proving it that ki, if it is initially, it may be wastage of taxpayers' money, but civil servants are, let's say, they end up generating resources. Have you written this? Right. So you should not only write this, it is not wastage of taxpayers' money. You should also write by some examples that ki even they generate resources. Right. And generation of resources can be much more, let's say, bigger scale than what an engineer or doctor they can contribute. Right. So that should have been written. Like suppose you are working in a taxation department and let's say that you have effective tax administration. So effective tax administration can result into lots of earning of revenue to the government. Right. Yes, but you can also do. A civil servant who is an engineer by background, he can also do. Right. We'll come to this point. So it can be. Many resources have been generated, let's say that, or many contributions have come from civil servant. Means generally you have a narrow view of the civil servant, that civil servants do not generate resources. They do not contribute. Right. Civil servants can also bring many, let's say, initiatives, reforms, and they can contribute, which can be even bigger than what a doctor and engineer contribute. This we are talking. Right. And when resources are generated, so whatever the resource loss you have, that can be offset. Right. So, and if that platform is not provided to those citizen persons, so they will not be able to do that. Right. This we are saying. And that's why, let's say, it should not be considered as, right, wastage of taxpayers' money. Another logic that should have come is that if we are subsidizing, right, when we are subsidizing, right, when we are subsidizing or paying by taxpayers' money, does it mean that we can restrict the freedom of choice of that person entire life? Right. It cannot be. Yes. Right. You cannot restrict the life of any individual just by, let's say, just because of this, that you have, let's say, given certain subsidy in his education. Right. This cannot be done. Freedom of choice is much more bigger than whatever the subsidy is provided. Right. So that point should also come. Yes. It may not be. I think they may not be so narrow minded. That point should also come. Certainly that point should come. But I think that point is not needed here. Right. Because there are some other questions also. So this is how we are trying to prioritize the points also, because we can end up writing in one A everything. So for B and C we should have something to write. So relevant point, but somewhere else we'll be writing. No, it will not be wrong. Freedom of choice is related to right to profession. It is also one such legal fundamental right also. That can be. No, no. No needed to mention article, etc. Why to mention it? See, next we are trying to say it should not be. Does it mean, I was talking, does it mean we should restrict? Second, does it mean that all those who are given tax concessions, many other persons are also given tax concessions, right? Many other things are also subsidized. So does it mean their things should also be restricted and regulated? Right? Business, you give huge tax concession. So does it mean there should be a bond between businessmen and the government? Right? So this logic, the rationale of the let's say, means the way we are logicking is subsidized, etc. It cannot be. Now let's come, the next point is, as far as they are doctor engineers, whether they should necessarily go to their field. That is also not, let's say, that rational, logical, otherwise society will be not getting benefit of their multifaceted talent that a person may have, or different types of potential and talent a person may have. Right? If you restrict, today you may not have Kejriwal as chief minister. Right? And many other, let's say, that world leaders that we had. Right? So Mahatma Gandhi should have not come to fight it. He should have remained like Jinnah as an advocate only. Right? You can have different professions and leaders coming, administrators coming. So we cannot have, let's say that this kind of restriction, these examples should have given, because people have potential, and when they have which kind of potential, this is very difficult to notice and realize. Right? You, let's say you may have this potential, yes, you want to become civil servant, but this you may not have realized, let's say 10 years back, right? 5 years back. This is how it is. When we come to realize. And what if after doing this you realize, you have some other potential? Right? So shouldn't it be, let's say, supported? So that logic should have also come. Means dynamism in the human life, right? Person or we as a human. So this we cannot restrict. This logic should have come. Next, government should impose a ban on their entire entry in civil service. It should not be, it is undemocratic. Right? A democratic country cannot restrict the choices, freedom of choice, liberty. So right to life, liberty cannot be restricted, strictly regulated. There can be reasonable level of restriction, but certainly this ban cannot be imposed. And in this point you should write it, if imposed, ban is imposed, so what should be the loss to civil service? That is called expertise, professionalism. Right? Wider spectrum of attracting the talent. Right? So if you restrict, put a ban, so you do not have such a wider spectrum where you can attract the talent. And when you have a narrow basis of recruitment, so let's say that your quality will suffer. Right? So there, this is a point where we can write expertise, etc. Because when they come, they have the expertise also, the area they belong. Right? So these points should come, and this is how you should not write it. Yes? Let's take next question. Should there be a bond concept? Yes. By the way, let me remind you some facts. Private sector में bond तो होता ही है, but bond तोड़ने के लिए भी पैसा दिया जाता है. Anyhow, the question is that in public sector also there is a concept of bond now introduced, especially in Maharashtra. This is how some doctors have shared. Right. Maharashtra government has a bond system to, right, once you complete degree, so you have to serve in rural areas or to government. It can be in some other states also. This is how. Means what we are trying to say is that there is a bond culture coming also in public sector. Right. So far it was more restricted to private sector, but a bond culture is coming in public sector also. Right. This awareness you should have. So do you think this awareness will influence this question answer? Bond in PSUs. Yes. Yes. Means there is different level of bond culture that we have. But here, let's say you should not support. There should not be bond. Why there should not be bond? First is that when you will enter in bond, read. When you will enter in bond, right? This is how because all sort of people come from different diverse background, right? So when you will enter in that bond, right? A bond amount should be there, or bond should be there. Second thing is that not all those engineers and doctors studies are subsidized. Right. So it is not subsidized. Third is that they have different background. But fourth, that is most important point is civil service. This is how it is put on high pedestal. Right. Civil service is a service known for public spirit. Right. You are trying to attract the people who have public spirit. Right. And let's say once you enter a bond amount, it will discourage such public spirit. Because bond concept is a more professional culture, more profit oriented culture. Right. It is a business sector culture where you have the profit as main motive. But when you have the service as the main motive, right, and then you enter a tangible bond concept, right, The bond is a tangible money, a tangible, let's say, entity, object. So this is against the very foundational value of civil service. Right. This is an important point that you should write. That is how it is kept on higher pedestal. Because your salary as an IAS officer is less than the salary given to doctor and engineers. Why you are given less salary then? A person who is engineer in a public sector undertaking, he earns double and triple than what you earn. Right. So it is simply because of service motive. Public spirited individuals. Cabinet secretary का कितना salary होगा? Right. Imagine उतना तो आज जो एक सिंपल बीटेक ग्रेजुएट करता है, right? उसका बिगिनिंग सैलरी होता है. Right. Our cabinet secretary जिससे मीटिंग करता होगा corporate sector etc. Right. The person who he meets and let's say that he has all these things. और लेट्स से आरबीआई गवर्नर, तो आरबीआई गवर्नर का सैलरी ज़्यादा होगा बट उसका सीवी यही पास करता है. राइट. जस्ट ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाई पब्लिक स्पिरिट. सो बॉन्ड कल्चर इज डाइल्यूटिंग द पब्लिक स्पिरिट. राइट. एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट शुड नॉट बी. Otherwise you change the very foundational value of the civil service. Make it professional. Right. So this is how it is. Yes, means this is how, even let's say some other points that can be linked is that even your rewards are given by the government, so they are intangible rewards given. Right. You do not get very tangible rewards. Right. When you get Padma Shri, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan, what is that? Right. It has a more intangible, let's say, concept rather than tangible concept, because the award money will be even less than the award given by Radio Mirchi. Right. This is how this is, right. So this is how we should try to write it. And Vinod Rai recently, this we can say that these references you can write when you write your answers, right? Vinod Rai has recently told, right, that only public spirited people should join civil service. Right. Those who want to join and seek parity with private sector or want to get tangible benefit or want to have their salary very high, they should not join. This is how he says. They should join elsewhere because they will get necessarily they deserve. They have talent, they can get that kind of salary elsewhere. They deserve, they can get. But they should join civil service only when they have public spirit. Right. So this is how you should have tried to brought these issues, means when you are writing answers. Right. So let me say that thinking can be very narrow, immediate level you can logic and reason. Thinking can be also very broad level you can logic and reason. We need a bit broad level of that logicking when you write your answers. Right. And the next, do you have any alternative view to address the above issue? Do we have any alternative view? No, when we are saying do we have any other aspects, so you have to bring some other alternatives. What other alternatives can be so that we can, let's say, ensure that people know their potential at early stage, or once people decide to take, let's say, study medical or go for engineering, so they continue in that profession. This is how they are trying to say whether alternatives you can have. Right. So let me say that you should write here that other areas, other sectors should also be made equally attractive. Right. Means if you are a doctor, so you should also have certain image and status. Generally what has happened is that in our society all image and status has gone to IAS. There is only one career. Right. And it is because of concentration of all power in the hand of bureaucrats. Right. So there is concentration of power in the hand of bureaucrats. That's why people want to be bureaucrat. Right. Even one academician, so he will not like his son or daughter to become academician because he have an experience ki how in his system bureaucracy enjoy power. Or for instance, when TSR Subramaniam is made head of education panel reform, so what academicians will think? Right. Imagine ki what they will think. It was their role performed by a retired bureaucrat. Right. So this is how, let's say that you have to ensure that different sectors. So we also provide ensure infrastructure, right? Better let's say tangible, intangible benefits, right? Status, etc. And that will not be possible unless you go for unbundling of power system in the country. Right. This is how. So this is how we should try to bring these kind of things to address the problems in different sectors and role modeling so that people can go to the different segments. This is how it should be. Although in the end again you should write, still we cannot stop, right, people coming from different backgrounds in civil services. And in today's globalization era, it can further not be stopped because it is more of now interdisciplinary knowledge. It is the era of interdisciplinary knowledge. Right. So that is how again we cannot restrict, right, different areas that people should be adhering or restricting to that area. So that should be written in end. This is how it should happen. Right. Yes, you can also write that lateral entry etc. can be, but I will not tell all these points. Lateral entry you can write, lateral entry should be encouraged. It is not lateral. He should be posted, but when you bring lateral entry, other side kind of things, so this is how things may change. इतना काफी है आंसर के लिए. Let's take it. It is quite sufficient. Finish it. Let's take to next. Yes. Bridge courses like. No, I think that bridge courses have been recommended in different contexts, so that will not suffice here. Means we should not try to bring it. You are talking ERC second. No, that context is recruitment, different thing. Right. This we can say. Since we are not, let's say, regulating recruitment, we are allowing in recruitment. So this is how that should not be brought. Right. That thing should not be brought. The bridge courses context is very different. Different is that only from particular institutions they will appear in entrance examination. So those who are not left over, so they can go for bridge courses. The context of that bridge course is different. Right. 10th we will discuss tomorrow. Right. It will not be possible to discuss. Right. This is how when tomorrow you write it. When tomorrow you are given to write, so you should try to apply these things. You should try to analyze. First, second. In 40 minutes you have to write. But how you should do is that at least one case study you should write in as many minutes as you can, provided within 40. Right. Means in, let's say what I will tell you that when tomorrow you write any case study, so you take your maximum time to write it so that you have given complete time, and then you can say how exactly you write. Right. And when we discuss, so this we can be. Other people, those who have speed, etc., I know, so they can write that things and they should try to attempt those 4 case studies. But your task should also be that it is not you have to write exactly 4, at least one you give the complete time, others you give the rest or less time and you write it. Even if you do not write complete one, time is left, you should try to write some major aspects of that. Right. Because only then it can bring certain level of evaluation, and this is how you can improve on that aspect. And tomorrow we'll be talking on different strategies and different types of case studies. Although we have this year also tried to include other categories also, like wildlife ethics also we have been included, bioethics also included, and in the let's say that one more will be adding, that is called sport ethics, because that has also got let's say importance. So these some other aspects have been added because there can be some necessarily questions on these aspects. Great. So further we'll take tomorrow. We'll finish today. Right. Okay.